All right, welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive safe. Dave here, along with Laura Cyrus, Senior Director of Industry Training at Truckers Against Trafficking. How are you doing this afternoon, Laura?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I saw you not too long ago over at the
Yep,
Women in Trucking Conference. Had a
yep.
chance to sit down with you over there and visit with you for a little bit. So kind of tell me what's transpired. Anything new? Anything going on this since we last spoke back in
November, early
November?
November. I
Yeah.
know. Time flies. It's crazy. I mean, really the only new thing for us, we're moving in, I mean, all of us, let's see, we have only a few more days of the year, but just moving into end of year sort of focus, just on fundraising and getting prep. Really, the big thing is for January, which is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month here in the US. And so our team is working to set up webinars and training events and social media campaigns and all kinds of support for all of our partner companies out there that are training and asking their drivers to watch the video, have the wallet card, have all of our tools that we have. But really, there is a national focus, not just with TAT, but across the nation on human trafficking awareness in the month of January. So you could say it's one of our busiest times of year. Yeah.
And I'm going to go off topic for just a second, Laura. We've all seen the news of recent, the large number of immigrants coming into the United States across the border, and the incredible, I would call it a human crisis going on along the border towns. That opens up for the possibility of human trafficking to occur in desperate times called desperate measures, and then bad things can happen as people prey on these people. Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we think about there's two crimes that can occur, right? Smuggling and trafficking. Smuggling you can think of as a crime against a country's border or immigration law. Movement is required. Trafficking is a crime against a person. There is no movement, no crossing of borders necessarily required in that. But just as you touched on, when you have folks that are desperate or vulnerable, maybe they don't speak the language, maybe they're fleeing oppression or violence or poverty or whatever it is, anybody that's desperate enough to make a move like that, whether regularly or irregularly, they are in a position to be prime targets for traffickers. And we see this, especially in cases that begin as smuggling. You may pay someone X number of thousands of dollars or whatever to get you across a border and into a country where you may not have official permission to be. Maybe nothing bad is going to happen, but because that smuggler knows that you are in a desperate situation, they may turn to you and say, okay, that $3,000 you paid for me to get you across this border, it's actually not enough. You now owe me X number of additional thousands, or you have to work for me for X number of years before I'm going to give you your freedom. That person knows that these people, right, likely don't speak the language, they don't have proper documentation, so they're not going to seek help. There's just a number of situations that make it a very risky situation for those folks, and they may absolutely become victims of trafficking then at some point. Now, does that mean that every person that comes into our country is going to be a victim of trafficking? No. We also know this is a homegrown problem. This is happening to U.S. kids, boys, girls, and adults, men and women. So unfortunately, it's a huge issue.
Yeah, Laura, and I'm not taking away from any of that. I just wanted to shed light on the possibility that when we see people and something doesn't look right in those situations, you may think that they're having a difficult moment. What we're talking about with Truckers Against Trafficking is take notice of something that might be wrong, right? We're not talking about somebody that's hungry, or but we're talking about people with a crime against another human being. And
Yeah.
there are genuine indicators that you can learn to identify, and also, and hear me out, and truck drivers know this, there is an inherent wrong when something's not right. I mean, when it comes to trafficking people, because they are in a bad situation and need help to get out, but we as a group can figure that out together, right?
Absolutely. And when you think about it, there are more truck drivers on the road at any given time than there are law enforcement officers, right? So everybody within the transportation industry really can be part of this mobile army who are able to identify those red flags, to make anonymous calls to either the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which is 1-888-373-7888, or to local law enforcement or 911, you're able to make those calls. You're able to see those red flags specifically. And I would encourage everybody to take the training. If you haven't already watched the video, you can go to our website, or if you're not already incorporating this into your safety training at your company, please talk to me. Let's get that going. But anytime you see a minor that you believe may be engaged in soliciting for commercial sex, or anytime you believe you're witnessing someone under the control of a pimp, regardless of the age or gender, not only of that potential victim, but also that trafficker. We know traffickers can be women. Typically, they are men, but we know that they can be women as well. So anytime you see those two red flags, we're asking you to immediately call in that tip to the national hotline or to local law enforcement. You may be seeing this at truck stops or rest areas or hotels or motels or other places where you're parked, or even delivering your load. We had a success story of a driver out in California. He was delayed to be received, and it was 3:30 in the morning. He was in an industrial area. It was raining. He got a knock on his door, and it was a young woman who had just fought off her would-be trafficker. He brought her and one of her friends into the city for the weekend, and he was planning to traffic them. She violently fought him off. She had no shoes, no cell phone, no identification, and she knocked on this driver's door. She saw his tat decal in his window that said, "Do you need help?" And it had the National Human Trafficking Hotline. She knocked on his cab. He recognized that there were red flags about this situation. She explained what was going on. They called the national hotline together, and they were able to get that young lady recovered and back to her family in a neighboring state the next day. The point being, you can see this at many locations. It's not just happening at truck stops. It's not just happening at rest areas. But the other thing that I would challenge all of us, we all live in neighborhoods or communities, whether you live in the inner city or a rural area. This crime, unfortunately, knows no racial, gender, or socioeconomic bounds. It is not contained within any neat geographic area. It's happening everywhere. And so, as the mobile army of America's roadways, of North America's roadways, whether you are out doing a run or whether you're at home, whether you're in your own community, there are red flags and signs that you can be seeing, and it really is up to all of us to be part of the solution.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on this, especially when you talk about it. It is as easy as a phone call. And I'll talk to you about being a driver and understanding it in this regard. If you're out on the highway and you see somebody weaving, right, and you understand the dangers that might be involved with somebody influenced under a drug, you're going to call 911. You're not going to wait. You're not going to delay, because you know what? Get them off the road, because we don't want anything bad to happen. And this is the same thing, Laura. We have an opportunity. It's better to be safe than sorry. Guess what happens if we call the hotline and somebody shows up and, you know what, it's not what we thought it was, right?
Right.
Who's the worst for wear?
That's the best case scenario. That's the best case scenario. And the hotline has told us to relay this to everyone, and law enforcement as well. There is no penalty for being wrong, right? If you're wrong, what is it, 10, 15 minutes out of somebody's day where, maybe you caught somebody at a bad moment or something just looked wrong, but nothing, nefarious was actually happening. Great, best case scenario. But what if you're right? What if you're right and you don't call, and that person, that boy, girl, man, woman, whoever it is, they are continuing to have to live that life and that trauma and experience that abuse and exploitation every single day? And what if your one call could have changed that for them? That ripple effect. That's what I love to talk about. So yes, there's no penalty for being wrong. And if you see something that just doesn't look right, if it's lining up with any of the red flags that we talk about in our training, then boom, you can make that call to local law enforcement or to the national hotline.
Yeah, I wanted you to know that I am a trucker against trafficking. I've been TAT certified. It's not hard. It's not a difficult. It's a 30-minute video to understand what it's all about. I mean, and that's really to understand what you can do, how you can make a difference, and that they're real stories, real
Yes.
people with real issues that need help, and they're not needing you to run into danger. They're not needing you to charge in with
Exactly.
run into an open flame. That's not the need here. The need here is for light to be shined on a dark spot. That's
Yeah.
really all we're asking to do. And that light starts, that spark starts with a phone call. And and
Absolutely.
and I guess here, Laura, let's talk a little bit about getting involved in TAT. Um, how well is TAT growing? How well is the organization? Let's talk about its success, because I think the reason for its success is because of the need. So, how well are you growing each and every year?
Yeah, we have experienced tremendous growth and scaling over the course of my time here at the organization, which is just about 10 years. We have just about 18 employees now, and we've trained over 1.4 million people with our training materials. We're not only working within the trucking industry, training specific to OTR, local drivers, and in home or white glove delivery type service, but we're also training folks in the bus industry, school bus drivers, municipal transit drivers. We're also training the energy industry, the workers out at these man camps, within the energy industry, oil and gas, as well as wind and solar. So we're scaling across modes, we're scaling across borders. We've replicated our model in Mexico. We are also currently rolling out our program for the last several years, sort of 2020 caught us by surprise as it did for everyone, but started a rollout of our TAT Canada program up there. So we've seen tremendous growth and tremendous opportunity to continue to invest in this work, invest in the people, the frontline, boots on the ground folks, the men and women of the trucking industry, especially, that can, like you're saying, be part of this, just seeing something. We're not asking, anybody to be Batman or Superman and to try to recover these victims themselves. It really is as simple as a phone call. So, yes, the organization is in a great place. We're very excited for continued growth, continued scaling of our programs, and really being able to offer useful tools, professionally created training material that's free of charge and can be done in less than 30 minutes. It really cannot get any easier than that. So we're excited to continue to offer that to all of our partners in the industry.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we personally here, or me personally, I've actually called in, gotten materials, gotten stuff for orientation work, gotten stuff so that anyone and everyone is accessible to the material, because you want to make sure that anybody that wants to do it or has a question about it can find a way to get involved in the program, because anybody, and as you say, you have so many different ways, can get involved in TAD. When you say it's free and you say that, let me just tell you personally, I was able to get, I'll tell you, you guys responded within 6 days. I had packages on my desk with flyers and stickers and all kinds of stuff in order, and brochures and everything to hand out during orientation, so that anybody that came in could be a member of TED. I mean, it was nothing. It was no charge at all to get this done. How do they go about doing this, Laura?
Yeah, you can send me an email or find us online, truckersagainsttrafficking.org. You can do the contact us form. Just let us know the number of drivers or students that you're typically training in a year, the best place to mail those materials, and then the way that you are deploying training. So sometimes we have folks doing it old school, right? You're showing the video in a classroom style situation where you're training multiple people at a time. That's excellent. Maybe you are putting drivers through some kind of virtual based onboarding or new hire orientation. Are you using something like Infinity or Vertical Alliance or ProTread or one of those types of LMS, externally managed LMS systems? We can have our training loaded onto those platforms. In fact, we're working with a lot of the major platforms within the transportation industry already. Or you can send your drivers to our portal, education.truckersagainsttrafficking.org. anybody, whether you're a truck driver or not, can log on there, register for free. You can take any of our courses that we have available, learn more about human trafficking as it relates to sort of these sub industries as well. And you will get a personalized certificate that says you are a certified trucker against trafficking. It'll have your name on there. And again, it's free, and we just encourage anybody and everybody to do it because, again, whether you're seeing this over the road or not, you live in a community, and there are opportunities for you to potentially see this. And just the ripple effect of awareness. Do you have kids? Do you have nieces or nephews or grandkids? The more that you know about the realities of human trafficking, the better off your young people in your life will be, because you are equipped to understand that this is a reality. These are, X, Y, and Z ways that this can happen, and you can help prep the young people in your life to be aware that this could be a potential situation that they could need to be aware of.
Laura, and as we talk about it, I tell you, you go through your community and you see things and you look at them, and we've all been comforted by the idea if I didn't look or didn't know about it, then it didn't happen. And I mean, we've all had that in our heart. We do that with our children. Hey, I keep them sheltered from stuff so that they don't know about the bad things of the world. Then I don't have to worry about them getting into them. But it doesn't work that way, right? I mean, it's going to be there whether we turn away or not. And my deal on this is that it's very important that we get as many people involved or to understand the situation on a better light than where we're at today. I mean, honestly, I think education probably is the key to crushing this this crime against humanity within this country. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if the United States, and before we go, wouldn't it be nice if we were a leading country in not allowing this to take place?
Right.
Right. What are your goals? I mean, I know we're going out. I know we're reaching out. But honestly, as y'all go through, y'all must have some sort of goals that you have in mind here going forward in the next year or two.
Yeah, so one of the things, in addition to the big goal of making sure every CDL holder across North America has seen this training, we also need to understand that's the intervention side. That's when a truck driver or anybody sees this crime occurring, they know what they're looking at and they know what to do. The flip side of that, and really before we ever have to get to that intervention section, is the prevention piece of this discussion. And so one of the things that we are really encouraging companies to do is to consider adopting anti-tip or anti-trafficking in persons policy with a demand reduction focus. These are HR policies that essentially prohibit the purchase, or the use of company work time or work product to purchase commercial sex. And this is a delicate and a sensitive subject, but the reality is, if we're talking about prevention and what our goals are, I don't want to see anybody ever be trafficked. And so in order to combat that, we have to look at the demand side of this equation. The reality is traffickers have recognized that there is a market for what they are selling, right? For their people that they're exploiting. And so they are going to try to make money however they can, whether that's at a truck stop, at a residential brothel, at an illicit massage business, whatever it is, they recognize that there's a market. And as long as there's somebody who's continuing to want to purchase or to want to buy, a trafficker is going to continue to operate their business. And so if we can stamp down on the demand side of this and really say, as a country or as a people, as a culture, we're not going to stand for this. If the market dried up, traffickers would go on and sell something else, because that's what it's about for them. It's about the money. So as one of TAT's goals, we are continuing to educate about that issue, about that topic, that if there were no buyer, there would be no victim. And so that's part of our Addressing Demand Man-to-Man campaign. We have another video, not a training video, but a conversation starter, especially for guys, for them to watch and understand and begin to have conversations with other men in their life, just to, again, understand that link between the demand for commercial sex and the reality of human trafficking. So it's a big issue. It is a cultural issue. It's not something, honestly, I'm not sure that will even be totally rectified in my lifetime, but that doesn't mean that we don't try. It doesn't mean that we don't keep moving forward and drawing more and more people into this work and into the awareness.
Well, I'll tell you, it is important. It is an important job, and all I can ask is being involved in understanding the importance of TAD. If you have an opportunity, go online, get on truckersagainsttrafficking.com, or is it .org? I can't remember.
.org.
.org, yeah, truckersagainsttrafficking.org. Get on there. It's about a 30-minute video. Understand and get to know a little bit more about the topic at hand. I guarantee you, if you listen to the stories on there, it's going to compel you to be different going forward. Laura, look, we're running out of time. I always love having you on to talk about the needs of the many. And it is always fun to have you here. I know you're passionate about your job and what you do. If we will ask you again back on soon, so I hope that you'll be back, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you back on. But before you go, I always ask all our guests to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that for me?
That's right. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Laura Cyrus, Senior Director of Industry Training and Outreach at Truckers Against Trafficking, and you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right. Thanks, Laura. And you know what? Happy New Year to you, young lady.
Happy New Year. Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right. Bye.